Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines. Blackrock and Ripple, leaders in a $16 trillion market race. New fears are swirling about U.S. dollar, verge of total collapse. And what about Ripple and the CEO of MasterCard? What about somebody rolling that beautiful intro?
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. That loud thump that you heard while the intro was playing, if you heard it, was my knee hitting the rail of the desk there. And it hurt. It was all I could do not to make a yelping noise. Oh, boy. Anyway, who knew the dangers of being a YouTube influencer? Well, there you have it. My knee hurts. Anyway, moving on. $2.36 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off 3.3%, but I'm still excited. 63,800 plus for Bitcoin right now, 2,600 plus for Ethereum. Tether market cap 119 billion plus, USDC 35 billion plus. XRP number 7 spot 62 cents, and it's dancing. It's dancing. Yeah, dance the night away. Off by 2.3 on the 24, up 6.3 on the 7-day. Range of price between 62, 66 cents. I wasn't lying. I was telling you the truth. But we're closer to the bottom of that range as we were up higher on the other end of the range overnight. But look, it'll get there. We're going to talk about it. Let's look at this. I don't know how much more time you have to register for this, but this is iTrust Capital telling you that they are asking you to enter to win your VIP USC game day experience. And it is an experience, and you will not forget this experience anytime soon if you sign up and win and you're chosen to go. I got to go last year. It's all expenses paid, trip to Los Angeles, going to a USC game. You're down on the field with the players. It's killer food, great people, and just a remarkable time all around. So don't mess around. Sign up to win this thing, and hopefully I get to see and hang out with you when you do. So that's what we're doing right there. Link underneath the video to get started. Here we see just in, Taiwan's Financial Supervisory Commission now allows professional investors to invest in foreign Bitcoin and crypto ETFs. So you can start to see how the rest of the world is really starting to get their clarity even beyond the United States here, which I think will come very soon. Now, let's level set here because I want to show you something that I see taking shape. And I'll tell you, Blackrock sees it taking shape. Swift sees it taking shape. Ripple sees it taking shape. MasterCard sees it taking shape. BNY Mellon sees it taking shape. But let's level set right here. You're going to love where we go today. Take a listen.
The rails of the banking system are broken. XRP fixes this.
And we were going to talk about this later, but a correspondent banking problem. I make the joke that if you and I decided to have a race to see who could get $10,000 to London the fastest, I would win if I just drove to JFK and flew it there. That's the fastest way to move money, which in 2019 in the world of the internet is a pretty surprising stat. So
it really is. And think of it, the fastest way to move the money, we've heard him say it 1,000 times. He's absolutely right. Fastest way to move the money is put it on a plane and take it there. But if you have stable coins, you don't have to get on that plane no more, right? Take a listen to this as a refresher of me and Chris Giancarlo on stage at XRP Las Vegas 2024. Protocol world after all, right? And all of this happening, and multiple different kinds of stable coins obviously that exist, whether they're commodity stable coins, fiat-backed stable coins, derivatives, stocks, bonds, and so on. You look at that wide range of all of these things, and that just sounds like a giant new use case being created for the world here, and especially if you go back to the dollar stable coins and you allow this private issuers like financial institutions to have this granted access to create a Bank of America stable coin, a PNC or Wells Fargo, right? So if we have these new use cases for these digital dollars, those entities will be required to have a qualified custodian and hold one-to-one or a surplus. But we're in a situation right now, Chris, where, at home, domestically, and geopolitically, there are a lot of things headed towards an intersection that doesn't look very healthy for us. Just speak to that moment, what that looks like from your digital dollar project chair.
Yeah, it's funny. History is a series of contractions and expansions. If you look at the U.S. approach to money during the 19th century, it was a very expansive notion. We had states issuing currencies, we had railroad companies issuing currencies, you had mines issuing currencies, and you had the federal government issuing currencies. And then we went through a period of high restriction, which reached an apogee in the 1930s when the Roosevelt administration actually banned ownership of gold. Everything had to be based on a federal notion of value. We've expanded that once again. We have a much more liberal approach to that, and we're in a global world where there's many different instruments of value that are competing. The question is whether we go back to a restrictive period again or whether we go to an open period. And what's going to make the difference is the people.
Yeah.
At the end of
He's absolutely right. It is the people. But, going to the point of having this new use case for dollars and bonds that will be hyperinflated soon enough, unfortunately. I do believe that. This will allow a new use case for this private issuance to soak up these hyperinflated bonds so we can all have an actual full-on $1 value digital dollar stablecoin in our digital wallets on our phone, right? Now, with that being said, you also need those instruments to be able to move the value around the world, or otherwise it isn't going to get to where it's going unless you put it on a plane and take it there. And that is why I believe the timing to launch the real USD on the XRP ledger and the Ethereum network is perfect. Now, whether it was planned this way or whether it was something they just decided to do late in the game, I think it was the smartest thing they could have done to leave smart contracts off of the XRP ledger and stable coins from their own issuance because of the case with the SEC. Whether it's planned or not, I think it was brilliant to wait to do those things because it would have just given the SEC more legal arguments to come at Ripple over, right? But now we're getting that, to a place where that's not an issue. So this is exciting to me because Ripple makes a public service announcement. Just a side note, beware. All the issuance and minting that you've seen so far is done in private beta. So the on-chain data is not available yet. Beware of anyone claiming to distribute real USD. And I've proven and showed you on CoinGecko, the indices it's listed, but there's no information yet because it's not absolutely launched to the public at this point. So that's where we are. Now, with that being said, look who else is getting in the stablecoin game. Oh, BlackRock. More use case. And more use case from a $10+ trillion asset under management, BlackRock. That's who's getting in this game. And take a look at this. Here's what it says. Now, as fears are swirling, the US dollar is on the verge of a total collapse. Okay? BlackRock's USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, known as BIDL, right? I actually got to speak to Carlos Domingo, the head of Securitize, who's working with the BIDL Fund with BlackRock. I interviewed him at the DC Blockchain Summit. Shout out to the Digital Chamber for the work there. Is being used to back a new stablecoin, described as a key milestone in the $16 trillion by 2030 race to tokenized finance. Okay, so I just want to, look, this isn't a told you so moment, even though it is. But what more importantly to me, what this is that we're getting it right. We're reading the tea leaves right. In the majority overview, the macro overview, we're reading the tea leaves right here. I see massive new use case and players setting up to participate in the issuance of stablecoins. And when you see someone as big as BlackRock doing it, it tells me that's how much hyperinflation we're about to have on our hands here very soon. I hope everyone is ready for that. And you can't have all of these vehicles moving and swirling around the world and moving value unless you have a trusted custodian that is a systemically important bank. How many times have we talked about FSOC and designations for SIFMUs and SIFMEs, systemically important financial market utilities and infrastructure? And lo and behold, every bank in the land has to adhere to that bullcrap rule that Gensler put in place, the SAB 121 rule that prohibits banks from being able to custody crypto, but not BNY Mellon. That's right, not the Ripple partner BNY Mellon, who one of the family members held $1 billion worth of XRP in 2018. No, yeah, how's that lining up for you? Because none of this tokenized world has a chance to even exist unless you have a qualified custodian. Makes it even better that it's a systemically important bank and happens to be the largest custodian for the world's assets, that BNY Mellon. They're allowed to do it. You seeing what I'm seeing? Or am I just been here too long? Then there's Pega Soltani from Ripple, who's one of the sharpest people there. I tell you, I've heard her speak enough to know she's got it. She knows what's going on. But look who she's speaking alongside of. How many times have people told us Swift is never going to use Ripple or XRP? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not what they say here. They're working for ways on how they can work together. This is Ryan Rugg from Citi. This is Kalani right here, and she's from Swift. And what's Pega Soltani doing there if she's not a part of the conversation with Ripple? She's the head of payment products, for God's sakes.
Kalyani, Swift has played such an important role in helping cross-border organizations and banks interoperate smoothly. What does the next generation of Swift look like? And will you work together with other types of solutions that we heard with Citi and Ripple to really tackle these issues?
Listen.
It's a great question. So first, let me describe the global response we're seeing on the interoperability topic, and it's really in 3 separate phases. So phase 1 was all about domestic schemes. So, you've got, that was the first group that really said, all right, let's try and see how we can reduce friction, how can we get to interoperability, and that's where you have examples like FedNow. You have some great use cases in India with UPI and with PIX in Brazil. Then the next phase was really about countries coming together, so inter-regional, and really discussing how do we hook up our domestic schemes together in a cross-border aspect. And there you have things like Luna in the Middle East, and you've got BRICS. And then the third phase, which definitely is very much in its infancy, it's intra-regional, and this is about different regions coming together and talking about how do we connect up together to get to interoperability. And there you've got IXB and Nexus as some examples, and you're constantly seeing different groups in APAC and the Middle East pop up in the news. So at Swift, we're super interested about the cross-border aspects of phase 2 and phase 3. We want to make sure that the industry isn't creating too many digital islands, and we want to be the network of network. And of course, we're very agnostic as to the form of money and what that's going to take, and the actual systems or mode of moving it around. And we really want to focus on interoperability between existing and emerging networks or across asset classes. So we really try to keep, up to date what's happening in the market to make sure that, whether we are participating and supporting different initiatives where possible, we do our own experimentations. You're absolutely right? So we talked with Pega and with Ryan on tokenized assets and CBDCs, and doing a lot of experimentation in both kind of areas as the market, has identified those as key next steps of what the next way into interoperability. And so if you look at tokenization, we started off last year looking at how we can be the single point person hooking up tokenized platforms to different payment platforms. And now we're working with a group of banks who are actually doing some experiments to see if they can use their existing Swift infrastructure to instruct the value of tokenized assets across multiple private and public blockchains. CBDCs we've been working in for a little bit longer. We started off creating a connector on the CBDC side, between DLT-based and fiat-based systems using existing financial rails. Then we did some sandboxing again with a small group of people just to see, does this make sense? Is this the right way?
So there you have it. That's Kalyani from Swift, and Ryan Rugg from Citi, and Pegah Soltani from Ripple, because they don't add anything to the conversation? Well, of course they do. You hear it. They're Swift's working with BRICS and UPI, and Brazil, by the way, has indirect connections and direct connections right back to Ripple. But I'm sure it's nothing, ladies and gentlemen, these new rails. These new rails need stable coins and CBDCs because those are the tokenized instruments of value that allow you to move money in this system. Right? Then you need the BNYs to be able to custody the real reserves so the system can operate in a flawless way, the way it could not operate in its current form today. That's moving to a foolproof system, a multipolar asset-backed system, and moving away from a debt-based system that we currently have. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. This is the monetary system going through a transformation and arguably moving from a Keynesian model to a, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the word here. It'll come to me. The Austrian style. And I think we're moving to more of that Austrian style model. And you know what? We'll see how it works out. Maybe we get some hybrid of where we currently are. One thing I do know is that the current system, I do believe, is on the verge of total collapse. And that's what all of this has been created for, is to set us up to move to a new system. Meanwhile, there was this article that came out here. Shout out to Michael Branch for sharing this, and give him a follow. He says, MasterCard and Ripple join forces to transform global payments. Now, this is correct, but there are some things to note about this, okay? And what we want to note about this is making some clarifications. Some people have said that essentially that the CEO of MasterCard has said they're using Ripple and Swift's going to go away. Let's just clear the air here. Big things are coming for XRP, and I certainly believe it too. It says, breaking, the CEO of MasterCard has just announced that Ripple XRP is set to replace Swift. Talks are already underway to utilize XRP Ledger for transactions. Not exactly, right? Not exactly what was said, and I found it. So what was said here was actually back to 2022 when the CEO of MasterCard at the time teases on a CBDC panel, we covered it here, that Swift may not exist in 5 years, right? Now, that was the comment that was made, and that was speaking to the technology that's out here. But, you know, again, there's a chance that Ripple and Swift also work together. But what MasterCard has said is this right here.
We think it's coming. So as a result, we said, okay, well, let's at least get ready to set up the stage. And in doing so, we're working with a number of different partners, you know, with Ripple, DBS, different companies around the world to say, well, you know, how can you help this whole transaction go from front to back?
And there it is, right? Ripple and DBS, right? The vice president of product at MasterCard talks about them being a partner for payment transactions with digital assets. We just heard Pegah Soltani sitting in a panel and a webinar with Swift and Citibank. And that conversation was the same thing. Now, you tell me why it hasn't happened yet. I'm just saying what I'm seeing is well, I'm seeing the system being held up by someone who is doing the weaponization of a government agency for the benefit of the legacy financial system. That's right. I believe Gary Gensler is operating as a pawn for the central monopolist, as he likes to call them, because he's not protecting investors. We all have been harmed because of him and Jay Clayton, right? So at the end of the day, what is happening here is waiting for clarity. I know, every day, right? But you know what? There is a reward for keeping your eye on the ball. And I watch people every day take their eye off of the ball, or they get distracted, or they feel that it should have happened on some pseudo timeline that they had in their mind instead of what is unfolding in front of us. And if you can allow yourself to just be an observer, I know we all have positions in this market, but if you can allow yourself to be an observer and run down the checklist that you have internally, am I seeing things today that make sense? Am I seeing the continued growth and adoption and strides being taken by whatever it is you're invested in? And am I seeing a macro move that ultimately sets up for legal clarity for the world to be able to use these assets just the way we use products today, whether they be dollars or whether they be stocks or bonds? We're just talking about tokenizing those markets. That's what we're talking about. And the introduction of something like XRP to work as a bridge and a complement in a manner, because of its technology and design, to be able to serve the financial system in a more efficient way going forward than we've ever seen before in human history. I truly believe we are on the brink of something absolutely remarkable and transformative. It will never go back to the way it was ever again. We just have to make sure they do it right, that they don't steal our rights in doing so. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives, ladies and gentlemen. You could give us a follow on the Freedom Zone for next to nothing. It's a great way to support the channel, and we are super grateful for all of you who do. Please hit the like and subscribe and share with someone you know. We'll catch all of you on the next one.